The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Beings from 100 different worlds moved through the space with practiced grace, their forms ranging from floating gas clouds to towering crystalline structures. Among them walked a human, and unlike his alien counterparts, Ambassador Tom wore the same thing he always did: a simple black suit and a warm smile. The other species had long ago stopped flinching when they saw him. After 50 years of peaceful human presence in the galaxy, most have forgotten why they used to be afraid. They forgot that humans came from a world that should have killed them. They forgot that human bones were dense enough to break most scanning equipment, that human teeth were sharp enough to tear flesh, that human muscles were strong enough to bend metal. Tom liked it that way. He smiled and nodded at a floating mass of tentacles that represented the Drift Collective. "Beautiful day for a council meeting," he said, knowing the translator would make his words sound pleasant in any language. The tentacle mass rippled in agreement, not noticing how Tom's eyes quickly counted its weak spots. Inside the council chamber, Tom took his usual seat. It was designed for a being twice his size, but he had never requested a change. Let them think humans were small and harmless. Around him, the chamber filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The bright ones glowed softly from their elevated platforms, while the heavy worlders settled into their reinforced chairs with loud thuds. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Tom of Earth," announced the speaker, a being made of pure energy contained within a special field. "You have the floor to discuss the trade routes through the Orion Arm." Tom stood, his smile never wavering. He had been practicing this smile for 20 years. It was perfect, warm enough to be friendly, but not so warm that it showed his teeth. "Thank you, honored speaker. Earth simply wishes to propose an expansion of the current trade routes. Our merchants have noted increasing traffic in sectors 7 through 12, and we believe additional lanes would benefit all species." A low rumble filled the chamber as the mining consortium's representative shifted their stone-like form. "These routes pass close to several of our operations. We have concerns about human ships in these areas." "Perfectly understandable," Tom replied, his voice smooth as silk. He didn't mention that human ships had been mapping those mining operations for years. "We're happy to adjust the proposed routes to maintain a comfortable distance." From the shadows of the upper chamber, a dark shape moved. The swarm's representative, a being that looked like a cross between an insect and a shadow, spoke in clicks and hisses. "The human proposal seems reasonable, though one wonders why such an expansion is needed now." Tom felt his heart rate increase slightly, the only sign of his interest. The swarm hadn't spoken in a council meeting for months. Their sudden interest was worth noting. He would add it to his report later, after he finished playing the role of the friendly diplomat. "Simple economics," Tom said, spreading his hands in a gesture of openness. "More trade means more prosperity for all. Earth has always supported free commerce." He didn't mention the heavy weapons hidden inside every human merchant ship, or the combat training every human trader received. The debate continued for hours, as these things usually did. Tom maintained his pleasant demeanor throughout, even when the Crystalline Alliance suggested additional safety measures for human ships. He agreed to everything, knowing none of it would matter when the time came. As the session ended, Tom gathered his papers. Actual physical papers, another carefully chosen detail. The other species found it charmingly primitive. None of them knew that the papers contained more computing power than their best quantum systems. On his way out, he paused to chat with the Drift Collective again. They had been watching him unusually closely today. "Looking forward to the cultural exchange next month," he said. "Earth's children are especially excited to share their art." The drift rippled again, pleased. They didn't know that every crayon drawing would contain encrypted military data, or that every child's song would carry hidden frequencies mapping their defenses. Tom walked back to the human embassy, still smiling. In his office, he wrote 2 reports. One, the official diplomatic summary he sent to the council archives. The other, encoded in his own DNA through his modified genetics, would reach Earth through channels no other. His last task of the day was to water the plants in his office, simple earth flowers that everyone found so charming. As he poured water into their pots, microscopic sensors hidden in their roots analyzed the chemical composition of the air, the patterns of energy usage in the building, and the movements of every being within a kilometer. Tom's smile, for just a moment, became real. Humans had learned long ago that the best way to hide was in plain sight, and they had gotten fair. Captain Kate stood at the command station of the Star Runner, watching the darkness between stars. Her ship was officially listed as a mid-sized merchant vessel, unremarkable among the thousands that crossed human space every day. The cargo holds were full of machine parts and processed metals, boring, everyday items that no one looked at twice. The ship's cat, Max, jumped onto the console and purred. Kate smiled as she scratched behind his ears. The other species thought it was quaint how humans kept animals on their ships. They didn't know that Max's enhanced genetics made him better at detecting radiation leaks than any machine. "Captain," called out her sensor operator, Mike, "got another shadow at Mark 7. He kept his voice casual, but Kate noticed how his hand rested near the hidden weapon panel. "Third one this week." Kate nodded, pretending to check routine shipping manifests while her augmented eyes zoomed in on the distant contact. The unknown ship was trying to hide in the radiation wake of a nearby gas giant. They were good, but not good enough to fool a human vessel's real sensors. "Log it as routine traffic," she said, following protocol. "And make sure our friends get their package." The package was their real sensor data, transmitted through a network of hidden quantum relays that humans had scattered throughout the galaxy. Every human ship did this, building a map of suspicious activity that grew larger each day. A light flashed on her console, an incoming transmission from the nearby space station. Engineer Jack's face appeared on the screen, his expression carefully neutral. "Captain Kate, just checking on that maintenance schedule we discussed." Kate read the real message hidden in the way he blinked. 3 long, 2 short. Warning signal. "Of course, Jack. We're still on for next week. How's the station's new garden coming along?" "Growing well. The alien delegates love the earth flowers." Jack's slight head tilt told her there were listeners nearby. "Though we had some issues with the irrigation system today. Nothing serious." Kate translated in her head. They had found more sabotage attempts. The irrigation system was their code for the station's defense grid. "Send me the details later. My crew loves fresh vegetables." After ending the transmission, Kate walked a slow circuit around her bridge. Her ship looked simple, almost primitive compared to the crystalline vessels and living ships used by other species. The walls were bare metal, the screens were flat panels, and everything had a well-worn look, all carefully planned. Other species didn't realize that the scratches on the walls contained nanoscale sensor arrays, or that the outdated screens could function even during a total power failure. They didn't know that every scuff mark on the floor was positioned to guide crew members during zero-gravity combat. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel," Mike reported, logging them as swarm trading vessels. There was a pause. "They're asking for directions to the nearest fuel station, Captain." Kate smiled. The swarm vessels had been following this pattern for weeks, appearing just close enough to observe, always with a seemingly innocent reason. "Give them the coordinates for Station 7. And Mike, make sure to use the old navigation protocols. Wouldn't want to confuse them with our newer systems." The old protocols were actually their most advanced deception program, feeding false data to any watching eyes. The swarm ships would see exactly what humans wanted them to see, an outdated merchant vessel following outdated procedures. Later, in her private quarters, Kate reviewed the real ship logs. 12 more swarm vessels had been spotted in human space this month, all following similar patterns. She added her observations to the encrypted database that every human captain maintained. The pattern was clear. The swarm was planning something. She thought about the drills her crew ran in secret, the weapons hidden behind false walls, the combat suits disguised as maintenance equipment. Every human ship was the same, peaceful on the outside, ready for war on the inside. They had learned from Earth's history. Peace was worth protecting, but only the prepared could keep it. As she finished her report, a message arrived from Ambassador Tom. Simple text, seemingly about trade regulations, but hidden in the spacing between words was a different message. Be ready. They're getting bolder. Kate closed the message and looked out at the stars. Humans had chosen to be peaceful, but they had never chosen to be helpless. The swarm, like so many others, had mistaken kindness for weakness. They would learn. The swarm struck at dawn, local time, on the human colony world of New Haven. They expected to find a peaceful farming settlement. What they found instead would haunt their nightmares for generations to come. The first wave of swarm ships darkened the skies above the colony's main settlement. Their sensors showed no military installations, no weapon systems, no planetary shields, just fields of grain, simple homes, and a few thousand human settlers going about their morning routines. Pitiful, clicked the swarm commander to his subordinates. These Deathworlders have lost their teeth. His ship's camera zoomed in on humans calmly walking to their morning jobs, some even stopping to look up at the invasion fleet. They don't even run in fear. The humans didn't run because they didn't need to. As the swarm ships began their descent, the wheat field suddenly split apart, revealing hidden missile silos. The farming equipment transformed, panels sliding away to expose energy weapons. Every barn in the colony opened up like a flower, showing rows of defense turrets. But it was the humans themselves that truly shocked the swarm. The peaceful farmers didn't panic or flee. Instead, they walked calmly to the nearest buildings, shed their outer clothes, and revealed combat suits underneath. Children disappeared into underground bunkers that had been hidden beneath playgrounds. The elderly moved with practiced efficiency to defense positions. The swarm commander barely had time to sound the alarm before the first wave of counterattacks hit his fleet. Missiles rose from the grain fields in perfect arcs. Energy weapons that had been disguised as simple irrigation equipment carved through swarm ships. Every human structure that his sensors had labeled as harmless turned out to be a carefully concealed weapon. Impossible. He chittered as his flagship rocked with explosions. They're weapons. They're more advanced than anything we have. A blast from what had appeared to be a grain silo vaporized 3 of his ships at once. On the ground, the human colonists moved with practiced precision. Their town hall split open to reveal a military command center. Bob, who yesterday had been selling vegetables in the market, now commanded a squad of power-armored troops. Mary, the school teacher, coordinated the colony's air defense from a bunker beneath her classroom. The swarm tried to land troops, expecting to find soft targets. Instead, they found that every street was a killing zone, every building a fortress. The human colonists fought with the skill of veteran soldiers, because that's exactly what they were. Every adult in the colony had military training, hidden beneath their peaceful farmer facade. Fall back, the commander ordered as another blast tore through his fleet. Full retreat. His sensors were finally showing him the truth. The entire colony was a military installation disguised as a civilian settlement. The farms were armories, the houses were bunkers, and the colonists were soldiers. But retreat wasn't as simple as he'd hoped. Hidden satellites, previously masked as debris, created a web of energy that trapped his ships. Defense platforms that had been disguised as asteroids moved into attack positions. The humans had prepared the entire star system for this moment. In orbit, Captain Kate's Star Runner dropped its merchant ship disguise, weapon panels sliding away as she led a fleet of trading vessels to cut off the swarm's escape route. "Remind me to thank the commander," she said to her crew. "We've been maintaining these covers for decades. Nice to finally put all this training to use." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the swarm commander found himself in a holding cell. facing Bob, now wearing a colonel's insignia. "You know," Bob said casually, still wearing his farmer's hat above his combat armor, "we really do grow food here. The wheat fields are real. We just believe in being prepared." He showed the commander a live feed of the colony. The weapon systems were already disappearing back into their hiding places. Children emerged from the bunkers and went back to playing. The farmers returned to their fields, combat suits once again hidden under casual clothes. "See, that's the thing about humans," Bob explained as he watched the commander's mandibles click in disbelief. "We didn't stop being Deathworlders. We just got better at living in peace, but we never, ever forgot how to fight." In the colony's command center, Mary sent out an encoded message to Earth. "First strike repelled. Cover maintained. Ready for next phase." Then she went back to planning tomorrow's math lesson, her combat screens once again hidden behind. Ambassador Tom stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his eternal smile finally gone. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as species from across the galaxy watched the humans show their true face for the first time in 50 years. "The swarm has committed an act of war," Tom said, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "Humanity withdraws from the non-aggression compact, effective immediately." He didn't raise his voice, but something in his tone made several council members move back in their seats. The Drift Collective's representative rippled in distress. "Surely there's room for diplomatic discussion. The humans have always supported peaceful solutions." "We still do," Tom replied, pressing a button on his podium. The chamber's central display came to life, showing real-time footage from across human space. But peace must be protected. The footage showed human ships across the galaxy shedding their civilian disguises. Hidden weapon ports opened on merchant vessels. Cargo containers transformed into missile batteries. Space stations that had appeared primitive and outdated now bristled with advanced defense systems. The mining consortium's representative shifted uneasily. "Those weapons, they're far beyond anything you've shown in military exercises." "Of course they are," Tom said. "Did you think we showed everything during those friendly games?" He pressed another button, and the display showed the aftermath of the New Haven battle. Every human colony is a fortress. Every trader is a soldier. Every civilian installation is a military base. We never stopped preparing. We just got better at hiding it. In human space, the transformation was happening everywhere. Captain Kate's Star Runner led a fleet of revealed warships, their holds empty of trade goods, but full of weapons that made the swarm's technology look primitive. Engineer Jack's space station now showed its true purpose as a forward command center, its gentle curves hiding layers of armor and weapon systems. "This is a violation of multiple treaties." The swarm's representative clicked in outrage. "You've been lying to the council for decades." "No," Tom corrected. "We never lied. We chose peace. We traded fairly. We shared technology." He smiled again, but this time it wasn't the practiced diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator. "We just never mentioned the things we didn't share." The chamber's displays showed more footage. Human diplomatic buildings across the galaxy revealed hidden bunkers. The decorative satellites around Earth colonies transformed into a network of defense platforms. Even the potted plants in human offices were showing their true nature as advanced scanning devices. The children's artwork in the cultural exchange, the bright ones realized suddenly. The songs, the dances, all real, Tom assured them. "Our children do love to draw and sing." But yes, every crayon drawing contained military data. Every song carried encrypted messages. "We taught our children to hide things in plain sight before they learned to walk." Across human space, Admiral Ray's fleet emerged from what other species had thought was a dangerous radiation zone. No one had gone near it for decades, believing humans too cautious to risk the radiation. Now they saw the truth. The radiation itself was artificial, hiding an entire battle fleet. The Crystalline Alliance's representative chimed in, their facets dark with worry. "Your trade routes, your mining operations, your civilian research. All genuine, Tom said. We do love to trade. We do need minerals. We do want to learn. He showed more footage of human ships and stations transforming. But every trade route was a supply line. Every mine was a forward base. Every research station was a surveillance post. In the council chamber, the various species watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed 50 years of hidden preparation. The peaceful traders were now a war fleet. The simple farmers were an army. The primitive-looking technology was a facade hiding weapons that shouldn't have been possible. We wanted peace, Tom explained to the silent chamber. We still do. But we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived because we learned to be ready for anything. He looked each council member in the eyes, or whatever they used for eyes. The swarm thought we had gone soft. They thought we had forgotten our Deathworld roots. Now they know better. As if to emphasize his point, the displays showed more human ships emerging from hiding places across the galaxy. Each one had been disguised, hidden, or masked as something harmless. Now they showed their true nature, forming into battle groups with practiced ease. We didn't stop being nice, Tom concluded. We just never. Admiral Ray watched from the bridge of his flagship as 1,000 human ships moved into attack formation. His vessel, like all the others, had spent decades hiding its true nature. Now, as panels shifted and weapons emerged, it finally showed its real form, a warship built by creatures who had survived on a world that wanted them dead. All ships report ready, his second-in-command reported. The swarm fleet is still gathering at their main base. They don't know we're coming. She paused, then added with a slight smile. They still think their base is hidden. Ray nodded. The swarm had built their base inside an asteroid field, thinking the constantly moving rocks would hide them. They didn't know that every human mining operation in that sector had been mapping their movements for years. What looked like simple mining sensors had been building a perfect 3D model of swarm defenses. Start the attack, Ray ordered. Show them what humanity has been hiding. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Ships that the swarm thought were simple freighters now revealed weapon systems that cut through their best shields. Merchant vessels transformed into electronic warfare platforms, shutting down swarm communications. Even the small maintenance pods showed their true purpose as they slipped through gaps in the asteroid field, carrying Special Forces troops in advanced stealth suits. On one of those pods, Captain Kate led her boarding team. Her crew had spent years playing the role of simple traders. Now they moved like the elite soldiers they had always been, their farming tools revealing themselves as advanced weapons. Remember your training, she told her team as they approached a swarm ship. Show them why humans smile before they fight. The pod attached to the swarm vessel's hull. What looked like simple cutting tools sliced through their strongest armor in seconds. The swarm troops inside had only moments to realize that the primitive humans had weapons that ignored their best defenses. Across the battlefield, Engineer Jack coordinated the electronic warfare from his station. The gardens he had tended so carefully now powered quantum computers that cracked swarm codes faster than they could make them. His primitive computers, which other species had mocked for years, now showed their true power. Their shields are down, Jack reported across the fleet network. Their weapons are offline. They're fighting blind. The swarm tried to retreat, but found themselves trapped by technology they hadn't known existed. Human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, using stealth systems that had been perfected over decades of secret development. The navigation beacons that humans had placed throughout the sector years ago revealed themselves as a network of weapon platforms. Interesting, Ray said as he watched the battle unfold. They really thought we spent 50 years doing nothing but farming and trading. His ship's main weapon, hidden for decades behind false sensor readings, powered up. They forgot that humans never stopped preparing for the worst. The swarm commander's voice came over the emergency channel, filled with clicks of panic. How? Your ships were inspected. Your weapons were counted. Your technology was measured. Yes, Ray replied calmly. We showed you exactly what we wanted you to see. Every inspection, every demonstration, every joint exercise, we only ever showed a fraction of our capability. A swarm battleship tried to make a last stand. 3 human vessels that had posed as medical ships for decades revealed their true nature, their healing tools transforming into weapons that cut through the alien ship's hull like paper. Your farmers are soldiers, the swarm commander realized. Your traders are warriors. Your diplomats are generals. We're humans, Ray corrected. We're everything we need to be. We can grow food and build ships and fight wars. We can be kind and peaceful and deadly. That's how we survived our death world, by being adaptable. The battle ended quickly. The swarm's hidden base, which they had thought was their greatest secret, fell to humans who had been watching it since its construction. Their best weapons proved useless against defenses humans had spent 50 years perfecting in secret. As the swarm ships surrendered one by one, Ray sent a message to every alien fleet in the galaxy. Humanity chose peace because we wanted to. We traded because we enjoyed it. We smiled because we were happy. But we never forgot our roots. We never stopped being what we are, survivors of a world that taught us to be ready for anything. He looked out at the aftermath of the battle, where human ships were already hiding their weapons again, ready to return to their peaceful disguise if needed. We're still happy to be friends, he added. But now you know what happens when someone mistakes. The captured swarm commander sat in an interrogation room, his mandibles clicking nervously as he recorded his report for the Galactic Council. The walls around him were bare metal, and the only furniture was a simple table and 2 chairs. Like everything humans made, it looked basic but contained hidden surprises. We thought we understood humans, he began, his translator converting his clicks into standard galactic speech. We watched them farm their crops and trade their goods. We studied their weapons and defenses. We thought they had grown soft. He paused, his compound eyes reflecting the light. We were wrong. So very wrong. The recording device captured every word as the commander described what he had seen. He told of human farmers who moved like elite soldiers, their simple tools becoming weapons in their hands. He spoke of merchant ships that carried weapons more advanced than anything the swarm had ever seen, hidden behind false sensor readings and clever disguises. Their bodies, he continued, are more terrifying than we remembered. We thought their hard bones and dense muscles were just leftovers from their Deathworld evolution. We didn't realize they had been maintaining those attributes, even enhancing them. Every human we fought could run faster, hit harder, and survive more damage than our calculations suggested possible. In another room, a member of the Drift Collective shared their observations. Their tentacles waved in patterns that showed fear and respect as they described watching human Marines fight in environments that would kill most species. They walked through radiation zones that would melt our protective fields, the drift being reported. They fought in gravity that would crush most races. When our sensors detected atmospheric poison, they just smiled and kept fighting. Their environmental suits weren't advanced technology. They were backup systems. The humans themselves were already adapted to survive conditions that we considered uninhabitable. The Crystalline Alliance representative provided their own recordings. The crystal being's facets showed recordings of humans using their supposedly ceremonial martial arts in actual combat. They told us these were traditional dances, the crystal chimed, cultural practices to honor their history. Now we understand. They were training. Every dance was a combat move. Every sport was practice for war. Every friendly competition was testing our defenses. A bright one's energy form flickered as they shared their analysis. Their children's games were military drills disguised as play. Their cooking techniques preserved combat survival skills. Even their music contained encrypted military coordinates. Everything they did had layers of meaning that we missed. The mining consortium's representative rumbled their own observations. Their mining operations were perfect cover for studying planetary defenses. Their terraforming projects built hidden bases. Their weather monitoring stations tracked ship movements. We thought they were inefficient, using primitive methods. Instead, they were hiding their true capabilities in plain sight. In the medical wing of a human station, an alien doctor from the medical collective reviewed their findings. Human bodies are even more adaptable than we knew. They weren't just surviving in different environments. They were thriving. Their bones got stronger. Their muscles got denser. Their reflexes got faster. 50 years of living in various gravities and atmospheres didn't weaken them. It made them more powerful. The reports continued to flow in. Species after species came forward with stories of discovering humanity's hidden strengths. The human practice of keeping pets had masked their ability to command and coordinate with other species. Their habit of growing plants everywhere had hidden advanced sensor systems. Their love of exploring dangerous places had maintained their survival skills. A survivor from the swarm's attack force described the moment their ships breached New Haven's atmosphere. The humans didn't panic. They didn't run. Every single one of them knew exactly what to do. Their entire colony transformed from a farming settlement into a military base in minutes, but the crops were still real. The buildings were still real. They just served two purposes, like everything humans make. The Galactic Council chambers filled with more testimony. Stories of human diplomatic gifts that turned out to be surveillance devices. Records of trade agreements that had secretly mapped defense capabilities. Evidence that every human scientific mission had also gathered. Perhaps most frightening, the swarm commander concluded his testimony, was their efficiency. They didn't waste time gloating or threatening. They didn't show anger or seek revenge. They simply switched from being peaceful traders to deadly warriors in an instant, like flipping a switch. And when the fighting was done, they switched back just as quickly. They're not just Deathworlders. They're Deathworlders who have mastered. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every species waited as Ambassador Tom walked to the central platform for his final address. The swarm's unconditional surrender had been processed hours earlier, and now the galaxy waited to learn what humanity would do with their newly revealed power. Tom no longer wore his simple black suit. Instead, he wore a formal military uniform that had been hidden in his office for 50 years, waiting for this moment. The medals on his chest told stories of battles no one had known about, fought on worlds no one had thought humans could survive on. Fellow members of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying the weight of history. Today we're going to tell you the truth about humans. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and sensing organs of every species present. Not because we have to, but because we choose to, just like we chose to be peaceful all these years. The chamber's displays came to life, showing scenes from across human space. The battlefields were already being cleaned up. Human ships had hidden their weapons again. Farmers on New Haven were back in their fields, though now everyone knew those fields concealed missile silos. 50 years ago, when we joined this council, we made a choice, Tom continued. We chose to be peaceful traders instead of conquerors. We chose to grow food instead of weapons. He smiled, and for the first time in 50 years, he showed his teeth. But we never chose to be helpless. Captain Kate's image appeared on the screens, her merchant vessel once again looking harmless as it helped rebuild a damaged station. Engineer Jack was shown tending his gardens, the hidden sensors still monitoring everything around them. Admiral Ray's fleet had already vanished back into their radiation zone hiding place. Every human child learns two things from birth, Tom explained. First, that peace is precious and worth protecting. Second, that you protect peace by being ready for war. He touched a control, and the displays showed human children playing their games that doubled as combat training, learning their dances that were really martial arts. We didn't lie to you, he assured the council. Every trade deal was honest. Every cultural exchange was genuine. Every scientific mission was real. We simply didn't tell you about the other things we were doing at the same time. The bright ones flickered in confusion. But your technology. We saw your limits. No, Tom corrected gently. You saw what we showed you. Humans learned long ago that the best way to survive was to keep your true strengths hidden. The screen showed human ships and stations transforming, revealing, and then hiding their weapons. Everything we built served two purposes. Everything we did had two meanings. Every human you met was both exactly what they seemed to be and something more. The Drift Collective rippled. The Swarm thought you had grown weak. The Swarm, Tom said, made the mistake of thinking that being peaceful meant being soft. They looked at our farms and saw weakness. They should have remembered that farmers are people who bend the earth itself to their will. The screen showed New Haven's farmers back at work, their military training evident in their efficient movements. They saw our merchants and thought we had gotten soft, he continued. They should have realized that traders are people who survive by their wits in strange and dangerous places. The displays showed human trading ships, their hidden weapons once again concealed but still ready. They watched our diplomats and thought we had forgotten how to fight. He added, standing straighter. They should have known that diplomacy is just war by other means. Tom's voice grew softer, but somehow more intense. We are Deathworlders. We survived a planet that tried to kill us every day. But we're also humans. We can choose to be kind. We can choose to trade instead of steal, to talk instead of fight, to help instead of harm. He looked around the chamber one final time. That choice is what makes us human. We can be your worst enemy or your best friend. We can build gardens in space or turn those gardens into fortresses. We can sing songs of peace or use those songs to coordinate war fleets. The displays showed scenes from across human space, farmers farming, traders trading, children playing, everything looking peaceful again, though now everyone knew the truth behind the peace. Today, we choose peace again, Tom concluded. We will return to trading and farming and sharing culture. Our weapons will go back into hiding. Our soldiers will go back to their civilian lives. But now you know the truth. Our kindness is a choice we make every day, not a weakness you can exploit. Remember that, and we can